Armand was a millionaire CEO. Every day, people looked at him with respect and sometimes envy. He wore sharp suits, expensive shoes, and a gold watch that gleamed in the sunlight. His life was full of power, money, and endless meetings. But today, something felt different. After finishing a late dinner at a fancy restaurant, Armand stepped outside. He held a small box of leftover food. It was not much for him, just scraps that he did not want to waste. But he thought maybe someone else could use it. As he walked to his car, the cold night air touched his face. The city was busy, but around him, everything felt quiet. Suddenly, near a trash bin, he saw a little girl. She was digging through the garbage. Her clothes were dirty and torn. Her feet had no shoes. She looked thin and small, trembling from the cold. Her hair was messy, and her face had smudges of dirt. But what caught Armand's attention most were her eyes. They were deep and empty, eyes that had seen too much pain. Armand stopped. He watched her for a moment. His heart tightened. He remembered the life he lived, full of wealth and comfort. And here was this little girl struggling to find something to eat in the trash. He took a step closer. "Hey," he said softly. The girl did not stop digging. He opened the box and held it out. "Do you want this food?" She looked up at him slowly. Their eyes met. Her eyes were tired but strong. Armand smiled gently. But then, something unexpected happened. The girl's face changed. Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head, and with a voice so soft but filled with pain, she said, "I don't take food from the man who ruined my life." Armand's smile disappeared. He blinked. His heart stopped for a moment. "Ruined your life?" he asked quietly. The girl did not answer. She turned away and disappeared. Into the dark street, Armand stood alone by the trash bin holding the food. The city noise felt far away. His mind was racing. Who was this girl? Why did she say those words? The phrase repeated in his head. The man who ruined my life. He thought about it again. Could she be talking about him? Armand looked down at his hands. The food he held felt heavy now. He slowly walked to his car but could not stop thinking about the girl. The city lights blurred as tears filled his eyes. For the first time in years, Armand felt a deep pain inside, not from money or failure, but from something he had tried to forget, his past. He sat in his car and looked at the food again. What was supposed to be a simple act of kindness had turned into a mystery. Armand did not want to forget her words. He knew this night would change everything. The girl was not just poor or hungry. She had a story, and he had to find out why she said those words. The next day, Armand could not focus on work. His thoughts kept going back to the girl. He asked his assistant, "Do we know anything about poor children in the city? Any shelters or places where they stay?" His assistant gave him some names and addresses. Armand made a decision. He would find her. He would learn the truth. Because something told him. This was not just a random encounter. It was a second chance. That evening, Armand returned to the same street. The trash bin was empty. The cold wind blew. He waited. Then, from a distance, he saw her. The little girl was sitting on the cold ground, hugging her knees. He walked slowly toward her. "Please," he said gently. "I want to help you. Will you talk to me?" She looked up but did not say a word. Armand sat beside her. The silence was heavy but not uncomfortable. After a few minutes, she spoke. "My name is Zara," she said softly. Armand smiled. "Zara," he repeated. She looked away. "I don't want your food," she said quietly. "Why?" Armand asked, confused. She took a deep breath. "Because you are the man who ruined my life." Her words were a knife through his heart. Armand swallowed hard. He needed to understand. "Zara, please tell me." She looked at him with sad eyes. 10 years ago, my father had a small shop. He was a good man." Armand's heart beat faster. "I was a child then. Happy," she said. "But your company, your business, It closed his shop. Arman closed his eyes. He remembered the deal he made years ago, the one that put another business out of work. He never thought about the people behind those shops. After that, Zara continued, my father lost everything. We had no home, no money. Then, he died. She looked at Arman. You took my father's life. Arman was silent. The night air was cold, but inside him something was burning. Tears ran down his cheeks. He never thought his actions could hurt someone like this. He had been blind to their pain. Now he could see, and he knew what he had to do. Arman sat silently beside Zara on the cold street. Her words echoed in his mind. You took my father's life. How could he have been so blind? How could he have thought only about money, never about people? He wanted to say something, but the pain in Zara's eyes stopped him. Suddenly, she whispered a name he hadn't heard in years. Your company, you worked for Mr. Kamal, didn't you? She said softly. Arman's heart skipped a beat. Mr. Kamal was the man whose small shop had once stood in the heart of the city. He was honest, kind, and loved by many. Arman had been the one to make the deal that crushed Kamal's business. Years ago, Arman's company bought the land where Kamal's shop was. It was a big step for Arman's career, but it had destroyed many small shops, including Kamal's. Arman swallowed hard. Zara. I didn't know. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. How could you not know, she asked. Did you ever care? Arman felt shame. He had never thought of Kamal's family. The deal was just business to him, a way to grow richer. Stronger. Zara stood up, pulling her torn jacket tighter. I'm hungry, she said simply. Arman looked down at the empty box he still held. He offered it again, but Zara shook her head. Not from you, she said. Arman knew she was right. He was not just a stranger with food. He was the man who had taken her father's life. But he was also the only hope she had. The next day, Arman could not stop thinking about Zara. He returned to the office, but sat quietly at his desk. He called his assistant. Find out everything about Kamal's family, he said, and where Zara might be now. His assistant looked surprised. Sir, why now? That was years ago. Arman took a deep breath. Because I need to fix this. I need to make it right. For days, Arman worked with private investigators. They searched old records, talked to people in the neighborhood, and looked through social services reports. Finally, they found a small orphanage on the edge of the city. The director confirmed. A girl named Zara had stayed there briefly, but ran away a few months ago. She is smart but scared, the director said. She trusts very few people. Arman's heart ached. He wanted to find her and tell her he was sorry. One evening, Arman returned to the street where he first met Zara. The city was quiet. He saw a small shadow near a broken bench. It was her. She was thinner than before, but her eyes still held that strong spirit. He walked slowly. Zara, he called gently. She looked up, surprised. Can we talk? Arman asked. Zara hesitated, then nodded slightly. They sat together on the bench. Arman listened carefully as Zara told him about her life after her father died. She and her mother had tried to survive, but her mother got sick and passed away. Zara had no family left. She had lived on the streets begging and searching for food. She told him about nights alone in the cold, about hunger so deep it felt like fire. Arman felt tears sting his eyes. He wanted to reach out, but Zara kept a distance. Why? Do you care now? She asked suddenly. Arman swallowed hard. Because I was wrong, he said simply. I didn't see your pain. I was selfish. Zara looked at him, searching. Words are easy, she said. What will you do? Arman thought for a moment. I will help you, he promised. Not with words, but with actions. Days turned into weeks. Arman visited Zara often. He brought her food, warm clothes, and blankets. Slowly, she began to trust him. She let him help. Arman saw how brave Zara was. Even when life was hard, she never gave up. One day, Zara showed him a small broken music box. It was my father's, she said softly. Armand held it carefully. He felt a new responsibility. To protect her. To make sure no more pain came. But Armand knew healing would not be easy. Zara's heart was broken. She needed more than food and clothes. She needed family. She needed love. And Armand was ready to give it. The next morning, Armand sat in his large office. The city buzzed outside the tall glass windows, but inside he felt far away from his usual world. His thoughts were with Zara, the little girl who had spoken words that shook him to his core. He pulled out an old file from his drawer. It was marked closed case. The paper was yellowed with age and the corners were worn. Armand had not looked at it for years. His hands trembled as he opened the file. Inside were papers, photos, and notes, all about Mr. Kamal's business, the deal, and the fallout. There was a photo of a man and a small girl. The girl looked exactly like Zara. Armand stared at the picture, his heart pounding. He remembered that day, the day he signed the papers that ended Mr. Kamal's shop. The deal was legal, but it had caused great pain. Armand had thought only of the company's growth, his success. He had not thought of Kamal's family, or how they would suffer. The file also had a report. It said Mr. Kamal died shortly after losing his shop. No one knew what happened to the girl. Armand's mind raced. Zara had survived, and now she was here, in the city, on the streets, alone. He closed the file slowly and sat back in his chair. He felt a heavy weight on his chest. Armand knew he had. To find Zara again, he needed to say sorry. But more than that, he needed to help her. He called his assistant. Find out everything you can about Zara's life after she left the orphanage. His assistant nodded. One evening, Armand returned to the street where he had first met Zara. He hoped to see her again. The street was quiet. He sat on a bench and waited. After some time, he saw a small figure approaching. It was Zara. Her clothes were dirty, but her eyes were still bright. She walked slowly toward him. Armand stood up. "Zara," he said gently. She looked at him but said nothing. He reached into his pocket and took out a small gift, a warm scarf. "For you," he said. Zara looked at the scarf and then back at Armand. After a moment, she took it, her eyes filled with tears. Armand felt hope. That night, Armand sat at home, thinking. He remembered his childhood. His parents had taught him to work hard, to never give up. But they also taught him to care for others. Had he forgotten this? He realized how far he had gone from those lessons. The next day, Armand visited the orphanage. He met the director and asked about Zara. The director said, "She is strong but scared. She has been through much." Armand nodded. He promised to help. Slowly, Armand began to change. He spent more time with Zara. He learned about her favorite things, music, stories, and dreams of a better life. One day, Zara showed him an old photo. For father, Armand held it carefully. He wanted to protect her, to give her the childhood she lost. But Zara was still afraid. She kept her distance. One evening, she looked at Armand and asked, "Why should I trust you?" Armand smiled sadly. "Because I want to make things right, not just for you, but for everyone I have hurt." Zara thought for a moment. "Actions speak louder than words," she said quietly. Armand nodded. "I will show you." Time passed. Armand and Zara's bond grew stronger. He started visiting the shelters where other children lived. He wanted to help them too. One night, Armand stood outside the building where Zara lived. He knew this was only the beginning. There was much to fix, much to heal. Days passed after Armand and Zara's quiet meeting on the street. The city around them moved fast, but Armand felt time slowing when he thought about the girl who had changed everything for him. Armand had never felt this way before, a mix of guilt, hope, and something new, responsibility. He knew he could not just give Zara a warm scarf and kind words. She needed more. She needed a future. The next morning, Armand called his assistant. "We need to help Zara," he said firmly. "Find a safe place for her, somewhere she can stay and feel protected." His assistant nodded, surprised by the sudden change in Armand. Within hours, Arman visited a small, quiet house far from the noisy city center. It was clean and bright, with soft beds and warm rooms. This could be a good place for Zara, Arman thought. Later that day, Arman returned to the street to find Zara. She was sitting alone, watching the busy people pass. "Bye, Zara," he said gently. She looked up, eyes wary but curious. "I found a place for you," Arman said. Zara did not say anything at first. Then slowly she nodded. Arman helped her walk to the new home. The house smelled of fresh flowers and warm food. Zara touched the soft blankets and smiled a little. Arman saw hope in her eyes. Days turned into weeks. Zara started to feel safe. She went to a small school nearby. She made new friends. She laughed, a sound Arman had almost forgotten existed. One afternoon, Arman visited Zara at the school. He watched her draw pictures of a bright future, a house, a family, and the sun shining. Zara showed him the drawings proudly. Arman smiled. But even in the happiest moments, fear stayed inside Zara. She looked at Arman one day and asked, "Will you stay, or will you leave like everyone else?" Arman took her hand softly. "I promise," he said. "I will stay. I will not leave you." Zara's story spread quietly through the city. People began to notice the millionaire CEO who cared for the poor girl. Some were surprised, others were curious. But Arman did not care about their opinions. He only cared about Zara. One night, as they sat by the fire, Zara asked, "Why did you help me?" Arman looked at her and thought carefully. "Because," he said slowly, "I want to be a better man. And I want to make sure no other child feels the way you did." Zara smiled softly. But life was not always easy. Zara's past still haunted her. She had nightmares. She sometimes ran away, scared of the future. Arman was patient. He held her hand and told her stories until she calmed down. One day, Arman made a decision. He wanted to help not just Zara, but many others like her. He planned to open a center, a place where children could find food, shelter, and hope. As Arman worked on his new dream, Zara stood by his side. Together, they faced the city's challenges. Together, they began to heal. Arman woke early that morning with a new feeling, a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today, he would visit the place where he planned to build the children's center. It was a small old building near the city park, empty for years. But in Arman's eyes, it could become a beacon of hope. He wanted Zara to see that her life, and the lives of many others, could change for the better. When Arman arrived, workers were already there. They had started cleaning and fixing the broken windows. The walls, once dull and gray, would soon be bright with fresh paint. Arman walked through the empty halls, imagining children laughing and playing here. A place where no one would go hungry or feel alone. Later, Arman called Zara. "Would you like to see the center?" he asked. There was a small pause before she said, "Yes." The next day, Zara came with him. She looked around, eyes wide with wonder. "This could be our home," Arman said softly. Zara smiled, a real smile. Over the next weeks, Arman worked hard. He met with teachers, cooks, and volunteers. He made sure everything was perfect for the children who would come. Zara helped too. She painted colorful pictures for the walls and picked out toys. For the first time in a long time, Zara felt like she belonged somewhere. One afternoon, a group of children arrived at the center for the first time. Some were shy, some scared, but all hopeful. Zara watched as Arman greeted each child with a warm smile. She felt proud, but not everyone was happy. Some people in the city thought Arman was wasting his money. They said, "Why help poor children? They will never change." Arman heard the whispers but ignored them. He knew he was doing the right thing. One evening, as Arman and Zara closed the center, a little boy came running up. "Thank you," he said, eyes shining. Zara looked at Arman. "See?" she said. "We are making a difference." Arman nodded, feeling stronger than ever. At night, Arman thought about his past mistakes and how far he had come. He had lost many things, his pride, his peace, but he had gained something more important, a purpose. Zara was his light in the darkness. One day Zara asked Armin about her father again. Did he like children? She asked quietly. Armin smiled sadly. I think he loved children very much, he said. That's why I want to help them now. Zara looked up at him, hope shining in her eyes. The children's center became a place of laughter, learning, and love. Armin and Zara worked together, building a family where there had been none. And for the first time, both of them felt truly happy one rainy afternoon. As Armin closed the children's center, he found an old envelope tucked inside a drawer of an ancient desk. The paper was yellowed, and the handwriting was shaky but clear. His heart skipped a beat. Curious, he opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a letter addressed to Mr. Kamal. Armin's hands trembled as he read the words. The letter was from Kamal's wife, Zara's mother. The letter told a story Armin had never known. It spoke of love, loss, and hope. It said Kamal had been a good man, who dreamed of a better life for his family. But the deal with Armin's company had destroyed everything. The letter asked for forgiveness for the pain caused, and hoped one day their families could find peace. Armin sat back, the weight of the letter heavy on his heart. He realized how little he knew about the family he had hurt, how many lives had been changed forever. That night, Armin shared the letter with Zara. She listened quietly, her eyes shining with tears. I didn't know, she whispered. Armin nodded. We must make things right, he said softly. But the letter also brought questions. Why had no one told Zara about it before? Why had the letter been hidden away? Armin promised himself to find answers. Over the next days, Armin and Zara searched for Kamal's wife. They asked neighbors, old friends, and looked through records. Their hope grew stronger. One evening, a woman answered their knock. She was older, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Zara gasped softly. It was her mother. They embraced, tears falling freely. Zara's mother told them about the hard years after Kamal's death, how she had hidden the letter to protect Zara, how she had wanted to shield her from more pain. Armin felt a new sense of responsibility, not just to Zara, but to her whole family. He knew his journey to make amends was far from over. Together, they talked late into the night. They shared stories, laughter, and tears. It was the beginning of healing. But even as hope grew, challenges remained. Zara still struggled with trust, and Armin had to face the consequences of his past. One day, Armin received a call. It was from a business partner warning him of enemies who wanted to stop his new work. Armin's fight was not just for Zara, it was for all the children who needed a chance. He looked at Zara and her mother. He promised, "No matter what happens, I will protect you." Zara smiled, feeling safe for the first time. The days grew brighter for Armin, Zara, and her mother. The past was heavy, but hope was stronger. Together they had faced pain, fear, and loss. Now they looked toward the future, one full of promise. Armin's business faced challenges. Some old enemies tried to stop his work with the children's center. They spread rumors, tried to block funds, and even threatened his safety. But Armin stood firm. He knew that protecting Zara and all the children was more important than any fight. One morning, Zara and her mother visited the center. The children greeted them with smiles and laughter. Zara held her mother's hand tightly, feeling a peace she had never known. Armin watched them from across the room. His heart was full. Zara's mother thanked Armin quietly. "Thank you for bringing us back together," she said. Armin smiled. "It's the beginning of a new life for all of us." Zara looked around the center, the place that had become her home. She saw children learning, playing, and dreaming. For the first time, she believed in happiness. Armin knelt beside Zara. "Do you remember the day we met?" he asked gently. Zara nodded. "You were scared and angry." Armin smiled. "And now?" Zara smiled back, eyes bright. "Now, I have a family." That evening, Armin sat alone in his office, looking out at the city lights. The road had been long and hard. He had lost much: pride, peace, and time. But he had gained something precious: love, forgiveness, and hope. He knew the past could not be changed, but the future was his to build. With Zara and her mother by his side, Armin was ready. The children's center grew stronger every day. More children came for help. Volunteers joined. The community began to change. Armand's story spread, inspiring others to care and give. One night, Zara wrote a letter to Armand. She thanked him for believing in her. For the first time, she called him Dad. Armand's eyes filled with tears as he read her words. His heart was full. He whispered to himself, "This is just the beginning.